retiring out. That is just his way of saying that. All right, man. Anyways, let's move on here. Let's go into our new segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good. The bad. The ugly.
And we're going to give you our good right now first here. I think the good is this, all right? Out of what's happened this past week here in boxing, we just witnessed Joe Smith, a blue-collar construction worker from Long Island, get in there. He was handpicked by Golden Boy and Bernard Hopkins to get in there and be the farewell fight.
And it looks like with some help of Dan Rafael. Did you hear that story?
Oh, yes, I heard that, you know, because the fact is this. Look, Joe Smith, you know, here's the thing, dude. This is the thing that I thought was kind of funny is that you saw some media people going like, you know, which was praising Bernard Hopkins, his age, and saying like he picked the toughest guy out there, the most hard-punching guy. This is after he had lost, okay? You know, big kudos for him. But the fact is this, is that he picked a guy that really resembled a lot of the guys that he's been able to dominate. Okay, Kelly Pavlik, Kelly Pavlik is a 1-2-3 combination puncher. Joe Smith kind of showed that. Doesn't have great footwork, but did show that he could cut the ring off, okay? Also showed just that you know, Joe was there to do exactly what he was being paid to do, which is get in there and try to knock this guy's head off, okay? And I applaud that because he didn't go in there. I mean, look, here's the thing. He could have went in there, Felipe, and he could have said, I'm going to let this guy gracefully stay in the ring with me for 12 rounds, and I'm just going to outpoint him and let him just ride into the sunset, and I'm just going to be this other guy that was his farewell fight, and I'm going to be remembered in the books as that. Or I could be the guy that crashed the party, and he did. He crashed the party for Bernard Hopkins. Not just with Bernard, but Fonfara, he did the same exact thing. That, to me, is good. That was good to see that a guy like that really, this was his lotto ticket, and he could either have sat on it or he could have cashed it, and he cashed it, in my opinion. He went in there, did what he was supposed to do, did what he's been training for, and he saw that if I beat this guy, it's just going to open the doors for me in talks with other guys, which has already been reported. Adonis Stevenson is being talked about. Look at Sergey Kovalev. They can't come up with a rematch in April with Andre Ward. Joe Smith is in line with these guys. Good for him. That is the good for boxing.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, and Joe Smith, I think he made his plans known from the get-go. I mean, he stated from the very beginning that he wasn't here to just be the folly for Bernard Hopkins last fight, that he wanted to beat him, that he wanted to, make a statement for his career like he did against Fonfara, and he knew exactly what were the rewards of that, which you just stated, you know, getting in the mix, being talked about, HBO wanting to see him again, you know, and those are the things. I mean, Joe Smith has performed twice on major networks. Showtime, was it Showtime, the Fonfara fight, or was it on, it was a PBC card, I believe, but was it on Showtime?
I don't think
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. I think it was CBS or something like that. But, you know, it was a major platform, and
Spike.
he ended up, you know, knocking both guys out. Obviously, which one's more impressive, Fonfara or Bernard Hopkins? I mean, the fact that Hopkins, 51 years old, hadn't fought in 2 years, you know, I think it's more impressive that he knocked out Fonfara. But, you know, still, I mean, the higher profile fight was this one against Bernard Hopkins. He did what he needed to do. Now he's in the mix, and he's a major player in 2017 in the light heavyweight division. I mean, Suleiman Barrera is there also for him. So that's a fight that everybody wants to see. They want to see Joe Smith again.
Yep. I want to see the kid again, too. I mean, I was, as soon as that first round, actually the second round, I started rooting for the kid. I was like, hey, this guy came to fight. He didn't come to just sit on it. He didn't want to be the guy known as, you know, Bernard went 12 rounds with, you know. He wanted to make sure he cemented himself the way Kovalev did when he faced Bernard Hopkins, okay? Now, let's go into the bad. Obviously, the bad is the loss for Bernard Hopkins because he was looking for a guy that was one-dimensional, that he was going to be able to get away with what he's done in the past in his youth. But like most things, he couldn't beat Father Time. Okay, now the 3-punch combination that landed, and Bernard Hopkins, being a politician in boxing, said that he was pushed out because the left hook really was off the wrist, and that was the final part there that pushed him out of the ring, and then he fell backwards, and we all saw what happened there. Okay, but the thing is this, okay, is that if you watch that fight, his eyes were almost shut. He almost kind of rolled back on that second punch. Now, Bernard's saying that his ankle, and I saw this with some folks, they're like, how do you hurt your ankle when you landed on your head? Well, here's my theory. Here's my observation of what happened here. When he got hit on that second punch, okay, that he was already falling. Did you see that, Felipe? Like, he was already falling. I think
he was already on the other side of the rope.
Right, yeah. And his body was leaning, but you see his feet were still, like, the angle of the camera showed that his legs were still set. You know what I mean? They were still on the canvas. I think that his feet, because of that, his ankle twisted while he was going down, and then when that left hook clipped him, that's what set him to go out. He was off balance already, So that there to me makes perfect sense of why his ankle, got sprained. In the process of him getting knocked out by Joe Smith. Now, the bad about it is the way he went out. He didn't go out in the fashion that he was looking for, right? He didn't go in that fashion that he was hoping to be the victor, that he could have bragged about, 51 years old, phenom, et cetera, et cetera. How did you do it, Bernard? How did you do it? You beat a young guy, right? Now, the bad is also this, is that he didn't want to accept in a gracious way that he lost. Now, I can understand, because it didn't play out. I think in a little bit in the back of his mind, he was like, damn, another white boy beat me. You remember when he said that with Joe Kazagi? I'll never let a white boy beat me. This is the third white boy that beat you. The irony there, you know what I mean? You're so adamant. I'll never let a white boy. And look what happened. He was finished off by Joe Smith here. So there's the bad for me.
I agree with you, but I think Brian Kenny from ESPN put it the best. Bernard Hopkins lost his first fight, he lost his last fight, but it's everything in between that made him a great fighter. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to remember this last fight, and obviously highlight reels are going to feature him flying out of the which was very
right.
It was going through the ropes. Highlight reels are going to feature that. But, you can't take away everything that he's done in his career. The oldest world champion in history, 20 defenses as a middleweight champion at 175 pounds as well. So he did what he needed to do. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I agree with you.
Absolutely.
The bad part of the week is
right.
the way that he ended the career.
Right, and you know what? It's that old saying here, you're only remembered from your last fight in boxing. That's just the way it's...
Exactly.
We didn't set the rules. That's just the way it's been said here. Now, in ugly, heavyweight Alexander Povetkin again has been popped for using PEDs, okay? Now, that was a big story. Some folks here, we got flooded with tons of questions and this and this and that. And I'll say this again, guys... Gabriel Montoya is by far the expert in that. I don't want to miss any information out there. Me and him discussed it. We'll probably do a segment on that situation there a little later, because if I remember correctly, Gabriel was telling me on Saturday. He was thinking about writing an article of clearing up a lot with what happened with Alexander Povetkin, and to also kind of show that, some folks have said that, well, I think it's obvious that Russia is just dirty. And he was like, really? You think? Were you not paying attention to the Olympics? So that is that. That is the ugly in boxing, and that's what continues to hurt our sport and kind of turn off some certain folks and stuff, especially the fighters, because I've spoken to quite a few fighters, and, you talk to them and they feel even more strongly about what we talk about in terms of the cheats and PEDs, because the fact that they got to go and step in the ring and they put their lives on the line for the sheer entertainment for us, and they're really not getting paid to put they're already getting paid to put their lives and their brain online by getting bashed in the head, and they're just saying like, damn, I got to put my life even more with somebody that's going to be even juiced up. So that is the ugly in boxing there.
I think I agree with you, but I think what I did like about that whole situation was that Bermane Stiverne decided not to fight. You know, he passed on a payday, and he said, you know what, first of all, this guy's coming up dirty again. Second, the WBC has retracted the sanctioning for the interim WBC title, so I'm out of here. You know, I'm leaving.
Right.
I'm not gonna be a part of this. You know, because obviously Povetkin ended up still fighting because, you know, the Russian Commission didn't care. They got a late sub. He ended up brutally knocking him out in the 6th round. But Bermane Stiverne was not going to be a party of that. You know, Don King is trying to get him compensated. He's trying to get him to get another opportunity for the interim world title, which I agree he deserves. Against who knows? I mean, let's see who they put him in against. But I think that Bermane Stiverne at the end did the right thing because he ended up walking away from Russia without a penny. He didn't get paid. Right. He didn't fight. So, yeah. But he did the right thing, and he walked away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. All right, so let's finish up with our final segment, our new segment that we did last week that, like I said, a lot of folks were intrigued and they did enjoy it. We're going to go with the biggest douchebag in boxing for this week here.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
Now, my pick is this, and I don't know if you have a different pick, but my pick is the HBO telecast commentators, which is Max Kellerman and Roy Jones. I don't know really about Jim Lampley, but those two right now stand out for me. And then I'm gonna tell you why here. Here you had, as the good half of our segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the good was Joe Smith. He just went out there, did a great performance in beating a guy that, yes, had Father Time that was up against him. Not just Joe Smith, a younger, strong, hard-hitting fighter at 175 pounds. Hopkins had to face whatever was there with his age and not being able to react to what he used to be able to with, you know, certain reflexes. His instincts were not there, so he had to fight with that. But you can't take that away from Joe Smith. The way Roy Jones and Max Kellerman, to me, it was like sour grapes. They were more sour than Bernard Hopkins. They were more sour than Golden Boy Promotions. They were more sour than the people that attended and the people that watched the show. These guys really downplayed this man's performance. They basically, you know, I could not believe Roy Jones and Max Kellerman were there, and they said, well, we don't even know. I mean, I don't even think this kid's that good. He doesn't know how to come off the ring. He doesn't know how to do this. Dude, he did his job. Why can't you commentate about that? To me, that was just such a slap in the face to this kid that went out there and, like I said, cashed his lotto ticket. What was bad about that, Felipe? What was so terrible about that?
If you didn't like what Joe Smith did this last weekend, then you don't like the Rocky movies because that's exactly what he did. You know, they picked him out of nowhere. I mean, obviously, he's a little bit known because of that Fonfara fight, but, you know, he was supposed to lose. He's a club fighter. That's the level that he was fighting at the club level. But he came out and did what he needed to do. I mean, obviously, Bernard Hopkins was nowhere near Apollo Creed. But, you know, Joe Smith did what he needed to do, like you mentioned, and he beat the guy that he wasn't supposed to do. I mean, he did more than Rocky. Rocky, I think he just fought to a draw in the first fight. So, you know, he did what he needed to do. It's you know, I agree with you. It's sour grapes from their end. But I mean, Joe Smith did what he needed to do, and he did what he needed to do against an older fighter. What's the first thing you are told when you're fighting an older fighter? Is you got to take him in deep early to see if he's going to be able to withstand the pressure, and that's what Joe Smith did from the opening bell. He pressured Bernard Hopkins early. It took him into deep waters, and by the 8th round, Bernard Hopkins was ready to dive out of there, which he did.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, how could you not like the kid? Even after stopping Bernard Hopkins.
Even if he's not that good of a fighter, I mean, why make such a big point of it, you know? I mean, the guy just defied the odds and beat the guy that he wasn't supposed to do it. Maybe he isn't that great of a fighter, but that night, on Saturday night at the Forum, he was a better fighter than Bernard Hopkins.
Absolutely. And here's what I say about that is we don't know how good of a fighter Joe Smith. I mean, when sometimes we've seen guys, and I'm pretty sure you've seen this. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. There's the old saying that when the guy gets a significant win or he gets the title, for some reason it triggers them and they get better. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here's this thing. Joe Smith was still working as a construction worker and training. Here's a kid that's not getting the full attention of learning the craft of being a better fighter. He's basically a part-time fighter with a big punch. You imagine if you take him into a full-time fighter with a big punch, what he could do. There's still room for this kid to grow. That was the part where I was missing from the telecast from HBO, was for them to commentate about that. Hey, look what we got here in front of us. A guy that's not afraid, a guy that's not showing Bernard Hopkins the respect that Bernard was expecting. He gave Bernard the respect of taking him out gracefully. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that, he knocked him out. He didn't say anything bad about Bernard. As a matter of fact, he asked for Bernard's autograph after.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe he is a flash in the pan, but, you know, I'd rather see Joe Smith than Shabransky. I mean, Shabransky was being talked about as a big fighter, as a fighter that was the future of the division. And look what happened. Sullivan Barrera made him, shred him to pieces last Friday, you know. So I think that, you know, as far as flashes in the pan, you know, I'd rather put my money on Joe Smith than Shabransky.
Yeah, that's same here. Same here. You know, I'd rather see him. I mean, even Letterman was saying, hey, I've drove from New York to Long Island to go see this kid fight. You know, so he's what you bring to the table. He's the Rocky story of what everybody loves. HBO, you just being straight haters with the guy. It was sad to see that. I mean, trust me, a lot of people are turned off by the commentary, especially with Max. You know, yes, Max, we know you know boxing history, but you don't have to make the comparisons every time you see a fight. How many guys have we known in the boxing media that do that? They're fresh off the press. You know, this is the first time they're ever covering the fight, and they want to talk boxing, and they have to throw in some type of historical fight, which you know has nothing to do with the conversation we're both having, but they just want you to know, like, hey, I'm a fight fan. I've been a fight fan for this long. You know, I've been watching, fight film, blah, blah, blah. Who does that remind you of? I can have a name, but I won't throw it out there and stuff, but there's somebody out there that I know. Right? Anyways.
It's funny when you're in press row and, you know, you're in press row and you get a guy that it's the first time that he gets to go down there. He might have covered other fights in auxiliary, and you know, he's like a kid in the candy store. I mean, he's close. He sees everybody walking by. You know, he's close to the ring. You know, he feels important, and it's funny to see, you know, this wide-eyed grin because they finally got down to the floor and they're not up in auxiliary. So that's what, when you were telling that story, that's what it reminded me of, a couple of guys that I've seen down there for the first time, and they're really excited. I mean, it's good. It's good. That's what boxing is about, is to get you excited. I mean, you and I and Gabriel and Steve, and, you know, Steve Kim basically runs the press row, so we've been down there plenty of times, but it's funny to see when a guy first goes down there to get right next to the ring, so it was pretty funny.
Hey, really quick final thoughts here for leaving the ring. I got to tell you this because I know that